Broadcaster Brett Dolan joining us on the Lewis Automotive Hotline. We get Brett every Thursday. And, boy, Brett, I know you've been in hundreds of ballparks, hundreds of basketball arenas, football stadiums, calling games, even just as a fan in some cases. Have you ever been to the Hoover Met?
One time, and it was for a college game, but that was the year that Alabama played their home games because they were renovating their home stadium. But I've never been to the SEC tournament. At some point, I'd like to get there and see it, but it just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, that was 2015 was the year that Alabama played their home games here. I remember it well because the Hogs came here, and I think they swept Alabama in that series. It was part of a streak of 7 consecutive series that they won going into the postseason, and they carried that all the way to Omaha, where they ended up going 2-Q. Top of the list for Arkansas this weekend. Win games, but I think display that Zach Root and Gage Wood are able to go deeper into the game than we've seen in the last week at least.
Well, it's kind of an interesting formula when you set up this conference tournament. I think I understand wanting the team to kind of play well or gel or have some momentum carry over, and we've often talked about starting pitching and kind of the need for that to kind of find some rhythm here in the postseason. Yet I'm wondering exactly how Dave might utilize his starters. You know, if you have 2 or 3 good innings, is that enough? And, you know, you get somebody out on a high note and not throw them too much. Is that completely different than you would in a regular season game? Or will you try and find a good stopping off point where they're not throwing a ton of pitches but having some success and run that into next week? I don't know. You know, how he used Hagan last year I thought was interesting and certainly not too cumbersome. So I'll be curious. I think this is really where this coaching staff will earn some of their dollars, so to speak, just kind of navigating how they want to utilize their pitching, and certainly it starts with the staff.
Well, usually everybody will say, and they say the same thing going into the basketball tournament, you want to be playing your best baseball right now. Are they playing their best baseball right now? Well, I guess the whole question would be, can you be playing your best baseball if your starters don't give you true starters innings?
Probably not. Yeah, I think that's the part of the formula that is the easiest to start with. So I think from that standpoint, you need your starters pitching well. I think that the problem I have, Phil, as we digest this or we debate it on a weekly basis or whether it's over a course of games, is that just the up and down nature of this season, and it isn't always necessarily when you're not playing well when you're losing games. It's that you're a little bit off and you're playing a good team and you end up losing a series, and then you can go back and think, well, we were 1 game away from winning the series or 1 inning away from winning this game. It's really hard to digest. Quite honestly, I'm looking forward to the regionals as an opportunity to step out of this SEC meat grinder and see how Arkansas's talent compares or possibly overwhelms some of the other talent that might be in this regional, or whether there's some issues as there have been the last couple of years. We feel like this is a better team and better suited for the postseason, and I'd love to be able to see them get past this weekend, be playing well enough that they can go out and dominate a regional and set them up for a super. But, it's just been so hard to kind of figure out the pattern this team is on. I think we've known at times when they haven't been sharp, and part of that's because the rotation hasn't been great, but they've still been close to winning series. So we'll find out, I guess, soon enough once we get through Hoover and get into the meat of the postseason.
Don't you feel like the baseball tournament, not this one, but the regionals all the way to the College World Series, is going to be like the NCAA basketball tournament, like March Madness? Because I remember going into the tournament thinking, I really don't know who's going to win, but there's maybe 6 or 7 teams I'm thinking of that will have a chance. And I feel the same way about the NCAA baseball tournament. The only difference is that when I was thinking about other teams that had a chance in basketball, I was thinking about, Duke or Houston, those sorts of schools. I don't know an out-of-conference school right now that I would think would be on that list to potentially beat an SEC team for a national championship. Now, maybe that's because I haven't watched enough of them. I don't know. But I think it's up for grabs for baseball, Brett, but I think it's up for grabs for SEC teams.
No, I think you're completely right on with that. And I kind of go through this as well, because we're so invested in the SEC. Are we missing something with North Carolina or Florida State? Or is there a mid-major Coastal Carolina that could cause some problems? And, I kind of just gloss over it because of the strength, I think, of the SEC. And I'm with you because there was a time I brought it up on our telecast earlier in the year. I think it was during basketball season where we watched the dominance of SEC basketball teams once they got to the postseason, and I thought, I know basketball and baseball are apples and oranges, but we just saw that this new strength of the SEC carry over to the postseason. Can't we assume that the same will happen in baseball? Only better because, as you point out, there aren't 6 or 7 powerhouses outside of the SEC like there are in college basketball. So, I guess the most curious aspect for me will be how many super regionals are just SEC matchups where you get one against another, teams that have played each other maybe 3 or 4 times over the course of the regular season in Hoover. And I really think that could be where we see the SEC dominance, whether Carolina or Florida State or some of the other teams get an opportunity to sneak in to join the 18 party. I guess we'll find out. But I do think the Supers could be wildly SEC heavy.
When we think the word national power, that phrase, and you think of basketball, I think you think of a lot of teams from outside of other conferences, Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, and I think you think about Indiana like that anymore, even Baylor of late, UCLA. When you're thinking of national powers in college baseball, are they all inside the SEC now? I mean, there's still other good programs. I'm not taking away from other programs. North Carolina is really good. Virginia is still really good. TCU is really good. But you would put Texas on that list too, and now they've joined the SEC. Oklahoma also joined the SEC. Are there really other college baseball powers, national powers? Arizona State's not the same. USC's not the same. You know what I mean?
Right. And, you go back a year when you got rid of the Pac-12, I always thought there was a possibility of maybe at least some competitive teams over a course of a year or a couple of years. If UCLA, for example, would put together a strong team, or maybe Oregon. But because they're in the Big Ten, I don't know if they have the quite cachet. I mean, when you're taking a road trip to West Lafayette, Indiana, to play Purdue for 3 games, it isn't the same as going to Dudy Noble or the Box or Baum Walker or even some of the venues that aren't as big, but it'll be raucous environments. So I think the consolidation of the conferences from 5 to 4 has been part of it. And Phil, when I look at our roster, I mean, you understand how people will come from across the country and the world to play in the SEC. When you've got a French-Canadian and Australian, a couple of Hawaiians, you've got people from completely outside the footprint. Then you get into California with Helfrich or Gackle, and you start to realize 5-10 years ago, this was an Arkansas, Texas-centric roster, and now you're talking about across the country and the world. And the reason why you're getting the best talent from around the world is because the perception and reality is it is the best competition. So, strength kind of continues more strength down the road, and I think we're seeing it. And that's why I think it's impressive Arkansas was able to win 20 games in league play. And I just hope that the grind wasn't so difficult that they don't have a push left in them once they finally get away from this in the regional and maybe supers.
You mentioned Helfrich. Can he stay hot? It just seems something's happened with him. Something's clicked with Ryder Helfrich. This year he's been better than last year, but there's something in the last 2-3 weeks that's just different.
Boy, it's been fun to watch, too. I mean, it kind of probably was what it was like for him in the Cape Cod League, where he was hitting 11, 12 home runs and right at the top of the league against top competition this past summer. And obviously it's carried over. The Caboose gang no longer looks quite like it did halfway through the year when Sousa and Helfrich were part of that 7, 8, and 9 combination. But when Dave moved Helfrich up the other day, even past Iredale, I thought, well, that's recognition alone that his importance in the lineup is you need to have him 4 times in a game. You need to have him batting behind Kahio Aloy or behind the 4-5 combination of Kojal as well. And he's such an incredible pitch framer and works well with the pitchers that you mix in his bat and his power. And I think he's going to be one of the top players in college baseball next year. But right now, it's hard not to get excited about what he brings to this lineup because he's given them a more punch at a time where maybe others like Iredale or Davalon haven't been at the elite level they were, because you just have this natural flow a little bit towards normal numbers. But he's been a big part of this surge in the last month or more.
Well, what it does for me is it also completes the idea that your guys that are up the middle aren't just good glove guys. And you want good glove guys, catcher, second base, shortstop, center field. But when they all hit, that's really what that can take a team that's just good fundamentally because you're good in the field at those important positions, and you can turn into an offensive juggernaut. I mean, and like Helfrich is he's much better right now, even than he was last month. Aloy is as good as it gets this year in the country. Having Kojal at second base with Robinette playing as well as he is, I think that's gigantic for this team because Cam's a good second baseman too. And Thomas, man, he's solidified center field, and he has solidified that number 9 spot on the batting order, and he's proud to be in that 9 hole. I think one reason why they're as good as they are, Brett, is because they're really good up the middle in the field and at the plate.
Well, it's a really fun way of looking at it, and I'm buying in if you're selling because I hadn't thought of it in those terms. So we talk about strength up the middle for a couple of reasons. And with Helfrich's bat and with Kojal playing second, as you mentioned, with Robinette kind of getting more reps or opportunities at first, and what Thomas has done, he's probably the best 9-hole hitter in the country, and we know what he can do defensively. So those 4 alone solidified the defense, and they're also integral parts of the offense. And I think it's probably why, or it's an indication why, collectively this team has been so good defensively. And then the length of the lineup, when they're playing well, that's as evident as anything. When you're seeing contributions, it isn't just 1 through 9, but you're getting 4 or 5 different guys, and it might be your 7 and 9 hitters one weekend, or it might be your 6 and 2 and 8 hitters another. But and I think you're onto something. I think it's not only the strength up the middle, but it's multifaceted, both offense and defense.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing and we're into the NBA and NHL playoffs, and BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the MLB, NBA, NHL, and UFC, BetOnline remains the best online source for all your sports wagering information. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here.